The dominant side of the brain. Researchers believe that the brain dominance determines a person's preferences, problem-solving style, personality characteristics, and even career choices. For example, a right-brain individual will quickly get a feeling of situations, while a left-brain person will usually ask a lot of questions first. The following charts reflects additional differences between left and right brain dominance. So ito ang kanilang personal preferences. The left dominant, sila mahilig sa classical music, being on time, careful planning, to consider alternatives, being thoughtful, and mahilig sa Monopoly, Scrabble, or chess. Ito naman yung personal preferences ng right dominance. So mahilig sa popular music, mahilig sa good times, to visualize the outcome, to go with the first idea, being active and athletic, mahilig sa art or music. There is nothing good or bad about either preferences. Both orientations can be equally successful in accomplishing a single task. However, one may be more appropriate over the other depending on the situation. Research study the brain's left and the right side seems to work together better in mathematically gifted middle school youth. So ayon sa Washington, there really may be something different about the brains of math heads. Mathematically gifted teens did better than average ability teens and college students on tests that required the two halves of the brain to cooperate, as reported in the April issue of Neuropsychology, published by the American Psychological Association or APA. In the study, a joint effort of psychologists at the U.S. Army Research Institute for the Behavioral and Social Sciences at Fort Benning and the University of Melbourne, Australia, researchers studied 60 right-handed males, 18 manually gifted, and 18 of average math ability, and 24 college students. Math giftedness seems to favor boys over girls, appearing an estimated to 6 to 13 times more often. It's not known why, but prenatal exposure to testosterone is suspected to be one influence due to its selective benefits to the right half of the brain. The gifted boys were recruited from a Challenges for Youth Talented program at Iowa State University, whereas the average scholastic aptitude test or SAT math scores for college-bound high school seniors is 500 out of 800. The mathematically gifted boys' average SAT math scored in middle school was 620. The boys viewed letter patterns flashes on the left or right side of the computer screen and had to indicate whether the two patterns match or not. A simple way of learning how the brain responds to data put before either the left or right visual field, corresponding to processing in the right or left brain because the input generally crosses over to the other side. The letter patterns were presented in three conditions: one-sided to the right hemisphere left eye, one-sided to the left hemisphere right eye, or bilateral both eyes. There were two types of tasks. Number one is local, saying the two letters match or mismatch on the small letters that went into making big letters. For example, a big T whose two strokes were made of small t's. And then the second is the global, saying two big letters match or mismatched. For the average teens and college students, the left brain hemisphere was faster for local matches, and the right brain hemisphere was faster for a global matches. This fit prior research, which has indicated that the left hemisphere is adept of processing visual parts in the case of the letter details. while the right hemisphere is more adept of analyzing visual wholes, in this case the global shapes of the big letters. However, the mathematically gifted boy showed no such hemispheric differences, whose were precious in math were equally good and at processing global and local elements with either hemisphere, suggesting more interactive cooperative left and right brains. So in addition, whereas average ability boys and college students were slower on cooperative trials, which presented letter patterns on both sides of the screen, the math gifted shows the opposite pattern. They were slower on one-side trials, but when a task asked both sides of the brain to work together, they were considerably faster than the other boys. The study supports the growing notions that the mathematically gifted are better at relying and integrating information between the cerebral hemispheres, says co-author Michael O'Boyle. It's not that you have a special math module somewhere in your brain, but rather that the brain's particular functional organization, which allows right hemisphere contributions to be better integrated into the overall cognitive behavioral equation, predisposes it towards the use of the high-level imaginary and spatial skills, which in turn just happen to be very useful when it comes to doing math reasoning. The research supports the broader notions that the functional, though not necessarily structural, organizations of the brain may be an important contributor to individual differences in cognitive abilities, talents, and, at the very least, information processing styles, say that O'Boyle. He adds various expressions of exceptionally such as giftedness in math, music, or art may be byproduct of the brain that has functionally organized itself in qualitatively different way than the usual left or right hemispheric asymmetry. At the same time, O'Boyle is not sure whether the findings could apply to math educations in general. Our work may be perhaps have something to say about the optimal timing of when a particular brain is most ready to learn or acquire a given skill, but I don't think we can create a math genius without the innate talent already there, he says. Finally, given the rising use of testosterone by adult men, O'Boyle cautions that testosterone taken later in life will not help your math, as the window of influence on the brain development is pretty much prenatal. It may be enhanced muscle mass, but it is unlikely to help you solve calculus problems. So that's the end of my video reporting. So thank you for listening and good luck everyone.